introduced, a very short introduction. The rules of engagement, keep it civil, keep it nice. We're here to have a collaborative conversation. And the mayor is here. Francesca, you can introduce, and then the mayor will talk to the audience.
I'll get over here.
Okay, well, thanks to everyone for taking the time to be here tonight. It is our great honor to speak with mayoral candidate and acting mayor London Breed.
I'm not the acting mayor, I'm the actual.
The acting.
That's a change.
I want to thank Lucy Tanu for spearheading our interviews with the mayoral candidate series, of which Mayor London Breed is the first mayoral candidate we're interviewing. I want to thank Lucy Tanu for spearheading our interviews, and Ayman Farhat for putting together a slide presentation on issues that are faced in the.
We mixed the data. We have a meeting here.
Two of them, okay.
But it's,
Tomer and Ayman.
just images.
So I'm making all kinds of mistakes. Anyway, and Tomer will be conducting an interview with you.
Oh. Okay.
Conversation.
All right,
It's a
all
very
right.
good
Kind of
conversation.
conversational.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Intermission Neighborhood Association. We have a lot in the mix. Recently, we put pressure on the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development to hold them accountable for the conditions around 1515 South Van Ness, which is at 26th and Shotwell and South Van Ness, and has had a lot of problems over the years. For months after the Delore Street Community Services gave control of the site over to the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, there was graffiti, tattered fencing, out of control encampments, and trash surrounding the site. We are now working to formalize a memorandum of understanding with shareholders, Robert Baca and Sarah Amaral of the Mayor's Office of Housing, and City Attorney David Chu, to better manage that area, because it's going to be years before it actually goes under construction, and we're thrilled that it's going to be more affordable housing. So yay, affordable housing. And the area, by the way, in the past 3 weeks has gotten a lot better. We have been collaborating with leaders of other Mission neighborhood groups, such as Ayman Farhat's Friends of Jose Coronado, Party to End Sex Trafficking in the area around 21st and Shotwell, and to stop public urinating and public drinking around the park as well, and in around the park. We've also have consulted with Tomer Meyer to hold HSH and others accountable for the area surrounding the new tiny cabins at Mission 16. There's a KV5 school that actually abuts that site, and we want to make sure for the neighbors and residents and children that the streets are in really clean and livable conditions for everyone. Lastly, I have a petition to stop DPW overreach. There are thousands of unattached flower pots and planters all over the city, and now DPW wants to retroactively get residents to obtain permits for unattached flower pots. Now, these flower pots and planters have been condoned by DPW in the city for decades. So we think it's punitive and unjust to now retroactively have thousands of residents get permits. Now, the permits will be free, but the taxes and revenue to create a structure to permit them is going to be costly. And with an enormous city deficit, we think it's crazy to create an unnecessary and costly bureaucracy to deal with a non-issue.
We will touch it in details also.
Okay, great. So, that said, I would like to introduce Mayor London Breed. She is a San Francisco daughter, born and raised here by her grandmother, so we have that in common. We're both raised by grandparents. In 2018, she was elected San Francisco's 45th mayor, and African American woman mayor in the city, so. Since then, she's presided over a tumultuous time, including a pandemic and the drug crises. We are eager for a discussion on the challenges specific to the Mission District. So now I'm going to hand the meeting over to Tony.
Well, no, the mayor will actually
yeah,
have
first, I'm sorry.
more time to actually speak.
But
with
you're
everybody
the-
for 5
you're the
minutes, so-
MC.
It looked like we got a lot of folks here that
I
are
know,
anxious to
but
ask
I
us.
want you to actually have your time, like, just
Okay.
unplanned for reaching everybody.
So in the interest of time, because I know that there are some issues that are very specific to this community, I want to try to make sure that we're able to address questions, concerns, and to have a robust conversation. But I will say, I wanted to just point to a couple of more recent things that have happened in our city that I'm really proud of. And since I've been mayor, just on homelessness, we've helped over 15,000 people exit homelessness. There are areas, including in this area, that we know still are very challenging. But I'm really grateful that there are some areas we've been able to keep clean and clear. We are doing a lot more to address homelessness and being a lot more aggressive, especially after the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal decision that gave us the ability to be more assertive when it comes to dealing with encampments and other challenges. So I'm really excited about what this means for the future and the work that we've done. Last year, crime was down to the lowest it's been since before the pandemic. And we know that that means nothing if something has happened to you or your store or your resident, and so we know we still have more work to do. But when I was growing up, and the reason why I got involved in politics in the first place, it had everything to do with gun violence and what was happening in my neighborhood. And the homicide rate in San Francisco. And in fact, we had absolutely no homicides during the month of February. And to have that happen in a major city in the US is significant. But again, I'm not suggesting in any way that we are done. We know that the problems in the mission are a little bit more unique around issues that I know we're going to be discussing related to the prostitution and the need for a solution, the illegal fencing that occurs in the mission, which we worked alongside some of our vendors and others to address. And I'm open to the conversation around additional solutions that we are not only proposing, but the work that we continue to need to do. I am really proud that when I first became mayor, I made it clear to the community that we were gonna focus on making sure that they were able to purchase the MLBS, and I made good on that commitment. We've made a lot of investments to address a lot of the gentrification by making allocations in my budget to purchase properties in order to build the affordable housing that we are talking about, that everyone is focused on, and considerable investments in a number of nonprofit organizations and festivals and events. That wasn't about what I wanted to do, it was about working with the community and making the kinds of investments the community wanted to see. So I am really proud of the work that I've been doing despite a pandemic, when it was a very challenging time, to still make those investments, work with community, and try to get the job done. But here we are today with, of course, some very pressing issues, and I'm looking forward to a robust discussion so that we can get at the heart of those issues, and you can hear directly from me my approach and desires to combat many of those issues in a way in which I'm hoping we can work together to continue to move forward. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're going to see because the audience here is.
Okay, I'll try to sit here so I can
Yeah, I
talk
don't
to
wanna- I can sit here, yeah, if that's good enough, it's good.
Oh. Keep me up too late.
Same here. So first, thank you, I'm honored, and everybody here is very fortunate to have you here with us. I have a few slides and decks that we actually prepared together after discussions, and we'll be able to actually dive into some of the subjects. But we do remember, of course, that you're very busy with just one district of a few. We're unique though. and there are a lot of your plate. There's a lot of your plate. So we discuss in the context of the mission, knowing that you have other things, of course, that you have to address in your.
But this is the most important thing right now.
Exactly. So I started with this, and this is where you can see also the screen over here as well, or over here. You know, the mission. It's an exciting neighborhood. It has a lot of great things in it. And I just wanted to hear from you, what is your perception of the mission, because it's different than other neighborhoods. What makes it unique? What are the strengths of it? How do you picture the vision for it? I know each answer will be a minute, but it will allow some kind of like a
Well,
free.
I grew up in San Francisco,
Yeah.
and so the mission for me was the place where I bought my clothes.
Yeah.
It was the colored 501 jeans. You guys remember when they first started putting out the red jeans and the yellows and everything else? Newberry and National Dollar Store and Leeds and all the different stores here. This is where I grew up, catching the 22 and the 14 and shopping, but also Pancho Villa, which is like everybody in my neighborhood from Fillmore, Pancho Villa is still our spot. It represents food, it represents diversity, it represents carnival and lowriders and murals and the art and the culture and a significant history in San Francisco that just puts a smile on your face, and it makes you excited about what the city represents. When we talk about San Francisco as a diverse city, it has everything to do with communities like the mission and what it represents. So I could tell a different kind of story at any different time in my life about the Mission neighborhood, and so it's always great to come here to just reflect on that.
Thank you, thank you. So indeed, I appreciate it. Those are the images that I chose to show here for everybody. Something that inspires. There's nothing like Dolores in a sunny day. The culture and diversity is just charming. There are the food and the art scene, and also there's a big and stronger scene, of course, as you probably know about, of tech companies focused on AI and others, and incubators that are actually flourishing in the mission because of the diversity and the richness of this place. So it has a lot of strength that is not even always associated directly with it. The next slide we have here is, we talked about the pros that you mentioned, the weather, the art. There's something about it that is showing for everybody from the planning department how diverse the mix of the use and the zoning in this area, which makes it so rich. This is the inner mission, and it's definitely very different than the bland, uniform residential areas. It creates the interest with residential in it. And as you can see here at the bottom left, we're one district of a few. We're the heart, in a way, together with eight, and in a diverse place that doesn't make it easy all the time, but also have opportunities in it. The next one is indeed what we mentioned: the weather, the vibrant cultural diversity, art, food scene, work, live, mixed use, tech startups, AI center, which is a global strength. Now here I actually wanted to just touch base and throw things that you already talked about.
Tell us something we don't know.
Yeah. Those are the cons that we actually gonna address here. Safe and clean streets, and in a way, we have a mind map that is wrapping around it. So I'll just mention a few, and we'll refer to them in our conversation. We have years of unsafe, dirty, messy streets that we experience here in the Inner Mission. I lived in Bernal before, and I think that the Hill is experiencing much less challenges than here, even though it's still challenging. So the Inner Mission has this the density of services that make it challenging. Mission reputation turns synonymous with the rampant open air drugs, mental incidents, crimes, cars and business burglary, prostitution, cop and shuttle, illegal vending throughout the bar plazas. We also have street conditions that this is our statement here. We would like the street conditions here to be equal to any mixed-use residential neighborhood in the city. Noy, Sunset, Richmond, Skyholly, Marina, our kids don't deserve less than theirs. And our kids are diverse, and they are together here, and they deserve what the other kids in the other neighborhoods deserve. I know that things are improving. I see the effort. We all do. And we'll talk about what we need to do in order to actually trade it up now towards the Richmond and Sunset conditions and avoid the conditions that of the very hurt neighborhoods in the city. It's a very dynamic place that we're at right now. So yeah, we'll hear that a bit from you. We have a few items that we'll dive into. It will be either law and order, policy, business ecosystem, and housing. But this is, you talked about it, but we can actually dive into it. Should I continue or do you want to? Yeah, let you talk.
Really?
Well, are we gonna have questions or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much, I just put it out there, and, we can actually talk about, policy.
Why don't you open it for questions and let the questions take? It looks like there's
I will.
no direction, and we only have her for 1 hour. Already
Yeah,
20
that's
minutes
true.
gone by.
That's true.
So let's just get to it.
So let me just, in that case, I'll just touch for another minute and then I'll open it to the conversation. I'm very happy to do that. Something about it, guys, we'll get there. Something about policy, there are very high density of services here. As you can see here, this is the North Mission, and we have SROs, clinics, and events next to kids. Those are our kids here that are playing, and those are actually photos that I took just within the last week. The same alley that our kids are actually playing soccer. So that's something actually to talk about, with the exception of this photo that is from Chateau. Other things, encampment, you can see from yesterday the mapping of last cases of encampments in our area, the Inner Mission versus Noe Valley and versus the Richmond. So there's something about that as well. It's still a lot of work. Another thing about policy would be, we have a concept of, okay, we have local residents that actually lost their houses, we're gonna help them, put them to housing. But eventually what happens is that there are a lot of mental and drug addicts that actually severe mental issues and drug addicts that are actually coming over from other places from the city. Their current residency is not even from the city. A lot of them shelter refusal, as you pointed out very well, and you actually, with your teams, taking care and addressing them much more in the last few months. Accountable to housing, hosting SROs of actually not always managing their guests well, and the guests are laying over during the day all over the sidewalks, and just making sure that the whole homeless services ecosystem that is very large right now doesn't really exist in a revolving door, just bringing more and more. It just takes care in a local way of our own residents and not growing so much around us. If they need to scale up, what we'll suggest is maybe scale up in non-residential areas outside of the tight residential areas, maybe in neighborhoods that are less residential, or maybe outside of the city. So those are the concepts that I'd like to introduce here. Last, business ecosystem. What do we actually do about the tech industry here that could actually get a boost even more and have them all here in the mission in the city? And housing. So we'll talk about that as well. All right, with that in mind, please, anyone that would like to actually have a question, or maybe I would like to have the mayor talking about all that. And then after a few minutes, we can refer to other things. Questions, away, and if that's good with you.
Yeah, I'll just start, because there was a lot to unpack in
Exactly.
the presentation. So I just want to talk about the bigger issue around fentanyl and drug dealing and drug using, because what we have done, fortunately, finally, is get a lot more help and support from the federal government. So the Drug Enforcement Agency and the U.S. Attorney's Office have been incredibly helpful in our organized structure and have helped us to build capacity, but our focus has mostly been on the Tenderloin, South of Market communities. We have made arrests of over 3,000 drug dealers and drug users with the goals of trying to get people into treatment. And I have to admit, we haven't given the mission the same kind of attention. I won't go into details and point any fingers about why. But what we want to be able to do when we are implementing that kind of strategy, we need community support too, when we're trying to do some things that really make people uncomfortable. And it makes people uncomfortable because we've had to make the hard decision. And I want you all to understand where that hard decision is coming from, because I'm not just trying to arrest people for the sake of arresting people. I grew up in San Francisco. You know, I have family members who dealt drugs, who used drugs. I lost a sister to a drug overdose. And coming up in my neighborhood during the height of gun violence, it is the reason why like I said earlier, got involved. But we have never seen this level of death. We have lost more people to drug overdoses, to fentanyl, than we have to gun violence, even in the city. And it has required a completely different response to this significant problem, which is why I've been very aggressive in how we're dealing with it. And the impacts are working to a certain extent in the Tenderloin community. And I am more than willing to, include, support in this particular area. And I would like community buy-in on including the mission as a part of that aggressive crackdown with this various organized group that we have, because we have the capacity to do it. So that is what we're working on. In addition to that, because we passed a proposition that requires if people want money through general assistance, they have to be in treatment. And that came from people from the recovery community, people who suffer from addiction themselves. I mean, I was just in the Tenderloin today, and I go to the Tenderloin on a regular basis, talking to a lot of the residents and business owners who want us to do more. And I think what is happening in the mission is very similar to what has been happening in the Tenderloin, and we want to apply some of the same structure to this community if people are open to it. So that, I would say that about that particular subject matter. I know that there are a lot of other questions and concerns, so I would like to leave it to you however you're conducting your meeting, but I'd rather you facilitate how all this is gonna go, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Yes, we'll take questions, and then of course, we have a lot of subjects here. Just of course keep it civil, please.
Maybe I should talk about what's going on with the prostitution. So I know that we made some changes to Cap Street, and then we ended up having the issue diverted to Shotwell. And now that Proposition E has passed, we have the ability to use cameras. And so that's another thing that right now we're doing our budget with the police department in order to, they have the ability, they don't have to work with a nonprofit to implement these cameras, but they can do so directly, again, with community buy-in. And the goal is to invest in cameras in these particular locations, because what we don't want to happen is, people are moving from one location to the next location, and that doesn't solve the problem. We want to be able to solve the problem with using, a 21st century tool that we have available to help us combat this issue. So that is something that we are working on and would like to propose as well, as a solution to some of the challenges there.
Related to the prostitution, we'll start with Ayman, after that this one, and then there's a person over there. So we'll have a sequence.
So, thank you so much for the time. So I'm going to summarize the mission, sorry, not just the question.
Just loud to
Can you
everybody.
speak up?
Okay, I'm going to summarize the mission in 4 numbers. 17%, that's the difference between the crime being reported in the mission vis-a-vis a crime reported in Noe Valley, given that both Noe Valley and the mission are served by the same police station, which is the Mission Police Station. The crime rate in the mission is 17% less likely to be closed. 29%, this is the increase in the number of
Loud.
29%, this is the increase in the number of calls to 311 for encampments in the mission in the run-up to APEC. During the APEC, the encampments were being moved from Surma to the mission. 33%, This is to increase the number of accidents, fatality accidents, in the mission after the COVID compared to the rest of the city. That translates to 238 additional injuries that happened in the mission. 215, this is the number of people who signed the petition for the license plate readers. Proposition E was approved. I'm sure you know the horrific attack that happened in broad daylight at 4 o'clock in San Francisco on Shotwell Street. Right after that, the city, there was a lot of statements that were being put up. The city put a barrier. The picture that Thomas showed with the woman being exposed, that was in Shotwell after that. This is what our kids have to do. So I know that there are a lot of problems, a lot of structural problems, but I also contend that the mission is being treated differently. And we need to get attention to the mission, because a lot of those problems are not Ninth Circuit Court, are not SB 37 that prevents the arrest of prostitution. Those are political wills, and we need your help. Thank you.
Well, there were just a lot of different subject matters again,
It's
and
consistent with one story.
yeah, I just, it will take me a long time. I'm happy to respond to it because he said a lot of things, but I see that a lot of folks have questions and concerns, unless you want me to get to the heart of one thing specifically.
Containment. Is the mission, all those stories are consistent with one thing, containment.
It's a containment zone where services are being brought over and issues are being contained.
Yeah, and that, I don't necessarily agree with that, even though you live here and you feel that way. And it's clear that the city probably needs to do a better job at how, we even publicize the significant investments that we make in many organizations and resources to support this community that clearly are not being maybe realized. And so the mission is not intended to be a containment, and my desire is to probably work with you all on the specifics. What we did on Shotwell was my departments working with the community despite the opposition that came from some of even our internal departments. It took a lot of pushing to actually get that done, and now, oh, am I confusing them?
Yeah, we're the recipients of what happened on Chapel.
Okay,
Yeah.
So we worked to resolve those issues, and that took a lot of legwork. Just like Proposition E, I had to take that to the ballot in order to just use surveillance cameras on the streets of San Francisco. So I'm fine with doing any recommendations that you have that we can do within our wheelhouse to do. But again, I want to get to maybe some specifics so that we can have a robust conversation.
What you got done on Shotwell Street?
I mixed them up. It's Cap Street. I'm sorry.
This lady was actually here very early, and she asked, and later I'll go to this side as well, so we won't neglect any side. So please, lady,
I just wanted to get clarification when you were answering
just loud.
about, for me, what it sounded like is you're saying forced treatment is what you're kind of going towards. And I just want to understand how you got there. I come from a background of public health, nursing, healthcare, 10 years, and I'm just,
What's the
I
question
heard your
about?
answer and
Yeah, I
I'm
understand.
understanding what you're saying.
Yeah, so you're asking how, now that I'm at a point where we are making arrests and we are trying to force those who suffer from addiction into treatment, how did I get to this point? I got to this point because of people mostly in recovery. People who, are for example, San Francisco had almost never invested in abstinence-based treatment. And in fact, we've been making significant investments in not just abstinence-based treatment, but also housing for people who are struggling with addiction, and who are trying to remain clean and sober. And in my conversations with mostly former addicts who I grew up with, who have given me the kind of advice that has led me to this position.
You're beyond that, there's no harm reduction, there's no it's hard to get needles, it's hard to get any kind of harm reduction out here. Even the nonprofits in this neighborhood don't want those things in the neighborhood, so where, there's no like connection, like this is like, it's fucked up, like it's really bad.
Let's keep it civil, guys, and we'll also allow the next two people to ask. Okay, so the point was made, but let's not use F words, please. This is not the place for that. But thank you. I actually promise this side will ping pong between them, okay? If we may, please, loud and civil. Thank you.
I witnessed the shooting. There was a mass shooting that happened right here at the corner.
A mass shooting that took place over here.
A mass shooting took place on our corner. I witnessed it. I testified. And what I need to say is that it's no different from any of these mass shootings that we see all around. And I would like for the mission to make a statement that we don't want guns in our city. There should be gun readers on the bridge. Guns should not enter our city. There are people coming here from all around. We open our arms. We love for life. We are a community that loves noise and life. But the guns. Furthermore, please slow our street down at this corner so that we don't have, we invite the celebration that comes right to this corner. Somehow this is really the cultural core. And people come from all around and claim it, and they have every right. But we need to slow it down for traffic, because I saw the way that car could move through that intersection. I saw, I mean, they're
Let's
just.
allow the mayor also.
Thank
So
you.
each question will just have it and allow the mayor to answer. Thank you.
Okay. No, I mean, we have done a lot of work in San Francisco we don't allow guns to be sold here. We work with a lot of organizations who push against gun violence, magazine, you name it, Hollow Point Bullets and all kinds of stuff. We've done this over the years. We even finally stopped the gun shows at the Cow Palace. So, we don't support, or at least I can tell you, I don't support anything related to allowing guns to impact our community. But I can't control, what people choose to do that unfortunately choose to carry guns and create the havoc. But I will tell you that I will continue to do everything I can to make sure that people are held accountable when we are able to identify folks who commit these various crimes and bring them to justice, because that is really important to me. As far as the speed related to the outdoor, we will take note of that and touch bases with the MTA about that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Next question by the gentleman over there.
As you know, Mayor, the Ninth Circuit Court issued an injunction to most Northern California and Oregon that they would not allow removal of tents on city sidewalks and in public places. A small town in Oregon called Grants Pass, very small town, took the case to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court heard the arguments, I think, in April. There is a decision expected in June. Because it's a conservative Supreme Court, there's a high likelihood that that injunction will be lifted, meaning cities like San Francisco can remove the tents forcibly if necessary. What is your plan if the Supreme Court issues that decision to remove the tents? How will you enforce that law?
So just to be clear, we are already doing it to a certain extent, but regardless of what happens with Grants Pass, we still, under the law, under a completely separate court case, are required to do a bag and tag policy, which is unfortunately a time-consuming process as well. We've seen since the clarification around the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal last year, we were able to reduce the large structures and encampments by 41%. So the good news is that because we've been able to reduce the encampment count, it gives us the ability to go back to these encampments sooner rather than the challenges we've had in the past where it would take us sometimes weeks or months to go back to a particular encampment. The more we reduce these encampments, the better for our city. Of all the encounters with all of these encampments, about 60% of those people refuse service. 30% take us up on our offer because we don't want to shuffle people from one neighborhood to the next. We want to get them into a program or get them indoors. And about 10% of those people we encounter are already housed. We're already paying for them to be housed. So we're going to continue to be very aggressive with dealing with this issue, and we have been confiscating tents, but we have to go through a bag and tag policy.
What is the bag
I
and
think
tag?
the bag, what is the bag tag?
What is a bag and tag?
So the bag and tag policy is such that if we come across someone who has an encampment on the streets of San Francisco, we can tell them to move, we can give them an ultimatum. Before the clarification around the court decision, we couldn't move them unless we had shelter for everybody. But now if we offer you a place to go, you are no longer involuntarily homeless. So we can begin the process of if it's your home or your structure or your belongings, we have to go through a process. We have to document everything and we have to keep it in storage for a certain time period in order to follow, a whole nother lawsuit, which is a whole nother kind of process. But our plan has not deviated in terms of addressing challenges around homelessness, and that is to continue to get people into shelter or whatever else we have. We've increased shelter capacity by 66%. We've increased our permanent supportive housing stock by over 50%. This is how we're able to help get people off the streets, but we cannot force people if they're not violating any laws.
If they refuse
We'll have a-
shelter, what is the plan?
If they refuse shelter and they're not violating laws, the only thing we can do is bag and tag their stuff, which is what we're doing already. So we're not able to force them into anything. If they refuse, all we can do is move them.
Take your tents.
And that's what we do. That's what we're doing now. That's why there's less tents, but we still have to hold on to their belongings for, I think it's a 30-day period, I believe. But we can't force anybody to come with us unless they unfortunately break the law.
Okay, thank you so much. Very good question, very, very important one. We will have
I'm Emma.
Emma. If I remember.
Hi.
Yeah.
I'm Emma. I live down the street. I lived around 24th Street for multiple years. I loved the mission. I live here with my fiance, and I want to grow my family in the mission. I know that you've overseen San Francisco on good days and on bad days. And for me, living here as a young person, one of the most challenging days I had in the mission was during COVID, when things were closed and my neighbors were suffering, and we saw that Latinos were dying at a higher rate across the country than many other places. And I just want to hear, you did manage to handle COVID, and I think about it than other mayors, and I want to hear what you did for the mission during those really dark days.
Yeah. Well, during COVID, we saw disproportionately people who were impacted in this community, and we worked with mostly the Latino task force to make investments in not only testing and resources, but also there's a large immigrant community here, and providing stipends for missed work, as well as rental recovery and hotel rooms to ensure that people were not spreading it with their families, so that they could feel that they could actually get tested and get to a place where they can recover and get healthy. We invested in community hubs for kids. We invested in all the food related resources, and the community actually did all the work. But we worked with the community to make the investments, and I am really proud of that work. And we were able to move fast because it was hard, and this community was impacted more than any other community in the city. But I will say, I wish that, those same emergency powers were still available to be able to do some of the other things that we know are important to this community, but alas, they're not. But I appreciate the opportunity to just talk about, when we came together at a really critical, hard time, we were able to support community. I think after the pandemic, we unfortunately saw a real explosion in crime. one that we did not anticipate, nor did we have the capacity to address. And we had to build that capacity, not just with our police department, but with alternatives to policing, to transition some of those mental health calls and wellness checks and other things to our street crisis response team in order to help diffuse some of the issues around those who struggle with mental illness and their interaction with the police. And we work with community ambassadors and programs, including in this community, to make the kinds of investment to help support community. So I know that there are, again, still challenges, and there are new challenges even now, because it seems like the pandemic was so far away, but like the pandemic was a once in 100 years challenge that we are still recovering from in different kinds of ways. And that's why we've had to make some really hard decisions about how we deal with so many of the challenges that are coming our way. And that's why it is important, and I'm glad to be here, to have these conversations and to get at the heart of some of these issues. Because I do think that, I know about some of the issues here in the Mission. I have done everything I can to work with the supervisor and work with other community stakeholders to try and combat these issues. But it's not going to be just one thing that you do to address these issues. It's going to take us working together, making the right investments, and more importantly, making sure that, some of the resources we're investing in things that may not be the best solutions for the challenges now are not things we're investing in. So thanks for your question.
So we have, I think, like 8 questions at least. We'll try to have short questions and short, deep answers as much as we can, because I know that you have a hard start in 50 minutes. No?
Come on, let's go.
Yeah. So,
Hi, Mayor. My name is Einstein. I'm a small business owner here in the Mission. I'm also from the Mission, even though I wasn't born in the United States. I was raised in San Francisco. I came at the age of 11, and I'm 58, so I'm still here. And my question to you is, I know recently you started events in the downtown area. And my question to you is, will you expand those events throughout the city? The reason I'm asking is because
Let's do it.
because in the past, we've asked our community leaders here in the Mission to open up the streets for everyone to come to the Mission and explore the Mission, because the businesses in the Mission are suffering after 2020, after COVID. The Mission is struggling. I can tell you maybe 10 businesses that I've spoken to are struggling. They're small businesses. They're people that are immigrants, and they've spent a lot of money in their businesses. And so we need people to come to the Mission and explore the Mission, explore the community, explore the food, the culture, everything that we are. We are all one. It doesn't matter the skin color that you are. Here in the Mission, we accept everyone. It doesn't matter.
Einstein, what would you like the mayor to do?
Einstein, say less. You know why? Because I just proposed legislation to, those very expensive ISHCOT fees where you try to close down the streets for an event? I propose to waive those fees to make it easier to do street closures so that we can have more activation and more events. And we are happy to work with you
Yes.
on an entertainment zone as
Yes.
well.
I'm
Similar
willing
to
work
what,
with that.
yes.
Because I love the Mission, I love San Francisco, and
We all do, yeah.
anyway.
Einstein, we'll do the connection.
You're speaking my language right now.
I own a barber shop, and I'm a barber. I've been a barber for 30+ years.
Yeah.
Thank you, Einstein. Give it a-
We're gonna work on that.
Yes, we will.
Jay will be next.
Hi, thank you for being here, thank you for hosting us. So there's a housing crisis, not only for the homeless, for everyone. But there are so many buildings that are for lease all over the city, especially on Market, on Folsom, South Van Ness, between like 4th all the way to 12th. Is there a plan to retrofit these empty buildings that are for lease into housing? Just like something like this, put up walls, so we create pods,
Yeah.
some sort of pods.
So, just so you know, I am, very much aggressively, trying to turn San Francisco from a city of no, you can't do anything, to a city of yes. And in fact, we have an obligation under state law to build 82,000 units now, and we've already spent a year talking about stuff, passing some policies, but we have about 7 years to accomplish this. We have over 50,000 units that have already been approved that haven't been built. And look, we can't control the interest rates, and we cannot control the cost to do business. But what I have tried to do with a ballot measure, a transfer tax that helps to incentivize people to convert exactly the kinds of buildings you're talking about from office or whatever the other use is to housing, we waive the transfer tax. And I've gotten rid of a lot of zoning challenges in our codes to cut down on the time it would take, because time is money. And the longer it takes, the more it costs. And so we need to, we as a city, incremental change is not the solution to aggressive housing production. We have to remember this is one of the most dense cities in the country. It's unaffordable. We have not been as aggressive as we should with housing production in our city. And it requires us to get rid of decades of bureaucracy, not life safety things, but decades of bureaucracy to get to yes. And that is what I've not only been doing, but what I will continue to do to help address this, because it's not just about affordable housing, it's about housing. Can you imagine if we were able to all of a sudden have an additional, within a few years, 50,000 units that have already been approved in the pipeline, what that would mean? You wouldn't have to hit the lottery for an affordable unit. You would be able to go and find your own place. So I am being aggressive and unapologetic in the work that I am trying to do to get to a better place with housing production in San Francisco, and to make it less expensive so that it's more attractive to build here and to build more.
Right, it can't be just technically.
Let's let other people, thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you, Joy. So, very important point.
Yes, hi, Mike behind the phone here, hi.
You can
My
come
name's
over here.
Dee. I live in the Mission, my kids go to school in the Mission, I also own a school, a trade school on Folsom Street, so I've been around here for a long time. It's so tough owning a small business in this town, from the cost that it does to do it, to Public Works leaving love notes that they don't like your sign, or they don't like your food. I mean, that is just, makes me wanna like go crazy. So what is the office, thanks for being here, by the way. What's being proposed to just help small businesses survive in this crazy town? I love San Francisco, I love this neighborhood, but the secured property tax, and the unsecured property tax, the payroll tax, and the thing, and that, and then they get 11 days sick time, and then I gotta cover that sick time, and all of the stuff, it's to a point where to own a business in this town, which is my dream to be an entrepreneur, I'm having a hard time figuring it out.
I'm glad you asked questions about small businesses, because I'll start with one of the programs we developed called First Year Free, and I know it's not for existing businesses, it's for people who want to start a new business in San Francisco. We won't even make you fill out paperwork. We just automatically waive the city fees for the first year for new businesses as a way to incentivize and to get more businesses to open in San Francisco. But the other thing in getting rid of the bureaucracy, our new director, who, well, not new, but she's a former supervisor, Katie Tang, she runs the Office of Small Business. And she got rid of over 100 things in our look, I can't tell you what all 100 things are, but I can tell you that a coffee shop like this, before us getting rid of all the bureaucracy, would only be able to do a coffee shop. And now you can sell and add other items without the lengthy bureaucracy to be able to make ends meet. You can add a ping pong table, you can add other things to enhance your business, and the tax is a little bit challenging. We are putting some reforms on the ballot to make the taxes simpler. It's going to be very helpful to small businesses, and it's going to be helpful to restaurants. So that's something that's happening as we speak to help address a lot of the layers around the frustration related to taxes. But you're right, we don't do well by small businesses. And what I am trying to do again is get rid of bureaucracy to make it easier to get the yes. If there are suggestions based on your own personal experience of things that you are dealing with, that you want to bring to our attention, I would welcome the opportunity for any small
How do you do that?
business.
What's the best way to do that?
There's, who do I have
We'll
here?
connect with her. We'll
Deanna
remind her.
is, so Deanna works in my office, Office of Economic and Workforce Development. And, you know, what we've tried to do is provide, you know, like, incentives for small businesses, but of course, there's never enough to go around. So how do we deconstruct the policies that are impacting what you do? Taxes, we cannot stop, but that's why we've come up with first year free and small business loans that are no interest rates, or bridge loans, or, you know, sometimes grants even, depending on the circumstances. We've tried to get creative around being more helpful to small businesses, even though we know the last thing the small business wants to do is be bothered with the city. You just want to run your business. So we're open to legislative suggestions of things that we may not even be thinking of right now, because we are like to just clean up the bureaucracy is what we're trying to do in order to allow our small businesses to thrive.
And protecting the small
Let-
theft,
let's-
versus, you know, the small
let's-
theft in retail stores and then somebody
Yeah.
selling it on the sidewalk, and that really hurts the businesses
We-
as well.
So, yeah. and these
I would love an
sections-
opportunity to talk about the fencing part, because the retail theft right now with we got a $17 million grant to address retail theft in San Francisco. And we have seen our retail theft numbers decline considerably. It's, again, not gone away,
Yeah.
but it is going down, down, down. And that has helped us to not only pay for police, but also pay for the district attorney to prosecute and to hold people accountable. So I'm really excited about what that means. And right now, we are working, you know, to make sure, because, you know, under state law and all the vending, we had to do the moratorium here, all the fencing was mixed with the vending, and we want to make sure that people who are fencing are not taking advantage of our streets to steal goods and to sell them on the streets. And so we're making some changes. We're working with state law to make some changes that will hopefully give us the ability to, you know, stop with our police support fencing on the streets of San Francisco, and then work with vendors to continue to allow organized structure for the purposes of allowing legal vending to occur on the streets in a responsible way.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. We have 2 short questions, please. So 2 short questions. The mayor needs to leave in 5 minutes. One here, one here.
Thank you
She
for
should go in the white jacket.
Okay, see her.
taking
We'll squeeze it in.
time out of your busy schedule to come talk to us. I'm a fourth-generation native San Franciscan. My grandfather lived in this neighborhood when it was Irish, and then my Mexican grandmother would come from the Sunset to do her grocery shopping.
Just do the question so she can
The
answer.
question is, where are you going to put people for this treatment that you are requiring them to enter into? I was part of the team that had to coordinate Prop 36 back in 2000, and there were a lot of slots for treatment, all different kinds of treatments. I don't see that now. I work in this field. Where, if you're going to gather these people who are in the CAPS program, these 5,200 people who, however many of them test positive, where are you going to treat them?
So, just to be clear, just within the past couple of years, and this is just with abstinence-based program that was never invested in San Francisco.
I'm part of an abstinence-based program.
We have invested $22 million into 7 sites, which also includes housing. That's just one example. Delancey Street is not at capacity. I mean, I can go on and on about some of the organizations, many that are getting funding from the city that have the capacity to be helpful. They are the ones that we use, that we work with the district attorney's office to try and provide as an alternative place and giving people options to be in treatment. And to be clear, Proposition F, we are working on the structure and the implementation. We have not implemented it yet. So we are working on the structure and the implementation, and all the providers, especially the ones that we provide resources to as a way, because this is not just about a bed. You can have, there's outpatient treatment, I mean, in the Castro, like their numbers even, yes, but we have worked with them to try and increase capacity, but they could definitely have outpatient as well as inpatient, and our plan is to make sure that we have the capacity to handle it. If we don't have a place for you to go, then we can't implement Proposition F. That's just what it's gonna be, but in the meantime, our goal is to have a place for you to go.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll have two more questions. The lady in white and the gentleman here in the vest. Can you please say each question shortly so the mayor can actually refer to, and then the mayor will. Yeah.
That's our challenge, but my name is Susana Rojas, I'm the Executive Director for Calle 24. Being here and answering the questions, I want to take a tiny bit, just to ask you, as you're doing everything that you're trying to do for our community, to also be able to share the narrative and share the stories and the data of all of the good that has been done in the mission. You know, through the pandemic and the work that we were able to do through the Latino Task Force, we were able to protect that whole community, that also allow us to learn how to combat COVID and train our businesses to be able to follow the protocols so that they can stay open. And we were able to open.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. And we were able to open 24th Street with only 5% of vacancies, which was one of the lowest in the whole. We also have the largest amount of outdoor events in the whole city. And they're culturally relevant, they're beautiful, and they attract thousands of people here.
All right,
So I think
what is
that-
the question? Because he wants also to voice out something.
That's
Yeah.
very.
I know.
So, you know, so for us, you know, we want to be able to work together. We want to make sure that we protect our cultural assets, like our vendors that are here representing and are here visiting, because it is hard for us that have left, and like myself, I was gentrified out of the mission and I'm still trying to come back, but we've dedicated our life to being here, to hear that there's people that want to make the mission, which is vibrant, is beautiful, is culturally rich, into the marina, right? Like if that was a place that brown people and black people could go shop, that would be happening, but they come here. And that needs to remain, and we just wanna make sure that we're all working together, and that's us doing things, that we are not losing our humanity, that we are working and making sure that we're taking care of our most vulnerable in a respectful and dignified way.
So nice statement. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I just want to, just because you mentioned just the work we did with the vendors, not only did we provide financial resources, we provide capacity building and organizational structure and a free location to help address this issue. And we appreciate the work that you did to help us implement that in order to make it clear that we were separating the two, because we know that there is a difference between fencing and vending, and we want to make sure that we protect the reasons why this community is special by working together. So I appreciate your work on that as well.
I know I'm not allowed. This is one last question. Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. Please.
Thanks. Hi. So, I guess I'm honored to be the last question, so thank you very much for being here. So just to get to it, August 4th, it was my 40th year as a San Franciscan, August 4th. So I feel like I am as rooted in this community as any of us here. I have 4 retail businesses here with, I don't know, approaching 24 employees that hop on my clock every day, and I'm honored to do that. So I have the worries of everyone here, plus more. I have a payroll problem that I relate to. I have a business issues, that 4 or 5 years decline issue. I live right here in the mission, so I hear the gunshots every night. So My kids, two girls here, cross the street every day, so I feel the kids here. I live on Harrison Street, and you know, I have issues where they're doing the plumbing now on the street. I mean, the plumbing, and you know, issues like, you know, nobody can park for 2 months, but nobody shows up for like half hour every week.
So you want
But
to
guess
mission
what?
more
It just-
attention.
So, you
Get
know,
more
so
attention.
no. What I wanted to say is, I feel every question that came here and I relate to it. But that's not what I want to ask you as the last question. I am, but I wanted to see what I feel. I look for a elected official that shares my moral values. I want to talk about a higher issue than a plumbing. I want to see what you feel about the Palestinian question. We all, I mean, I'm sorry, but I think it affects all of us. It sure affects me. I'm a taxpayer. I contribute. I'm a contributor, and I look for elected officials that share my moral values.
Okay.
I feel like you. I look for a little bit more guidance, direction from you on that.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're
Yeah.
leaving me wanting a little more.
Okay.
But I appreciate your service to the city, and you know.
I do want to.
And you know, I just say it aloud, I'm
Thank you.
Israeli, so I'm
Yeah.
very happy that you managed to do
Yeah.
your last
So
question.
I appreciate the
I
fact
think
that
that's
you
why I
brought
wanted
up
it to be the
because-
last question, because I feel it is a part of our moral makeup.
Okay,
It is
let
a
her
part of our
respond.
moral makeup.
Let
There is
her-
a higher thing we need to talk
Can you
about.
let her answer?
Yes, sir, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
So I appreciate the opportunity to address it because I believe that there has been a lot of miscommunication about where I stand. I don't support this war. I don't support what's going on. And it's been tragic, it's been hurtful, there's been a lot of pain. When the resolution that the Board of Supervisors adopted came to my office, to be clear, I have me and previous mayors before me, when the Board of Supervisors pass non-binding resolutions, typically they are not signed or vetoed by the mayor. So there were people who were asking me to sign it, and there were people who were asking me to veto it. And I did neither, which has nothing to do with how I feel about the situation that has been happening in Gaza. I know it's been hurtful, I know that there's been a lot of pain, it's been tragic, but I also want to be very clear, because I am mayor of San Francisco, and as hard as it is to see what is happening in other parts of the world with a lot of the violence and the hopelessness and the despair, my responsibility is also to make sure that I am supporting the people of San Francisco, that the people of San Francisco feel safe, that they feel supported, and more importantly, that they have the right to peacefully protest in our city. So I have been very clear about where I stand and what I care about and what I need to do as mayor. So I appreciate the opportunity to really address that head on.
Thank you.
Because there have been a lot of people that have been trying to speak on my behalf when, you know, I'm perfectly clearly capable of speaking on my own behalf. But, you know, just to be clear too, because again, this city has a history of peaceful protest. And it is so important that we continue to allow that to occur, and we have supported that. We have used resources to support that, to keep the protesters safe and to keep anyone else who feels like there might be a problem, whether it's their religious institution, whether it's their neighborhood group, whether it's their business. It is my responsibility, regardless of someone's ethnicity, to be a mayor that protects the citizens of this city, even in the midst of our disagreements.
That's
So
honorable.
I appreciate
Thank you, that's honorable. And thank you for taking that question. Thank you for taking that question. Thank you for taking that question. But one thing left, where do you stand on it? As a mayor, where do you stand on the issue?
I already
You said you support everyone. Where do you stand?
I said I don't support
No
this.
argument, we're gonna keep this civil.